Listen, have you ever wondered why the future in movies always feels so dry, plastic, chrome, boring LEDs, as if we're just software trapped in a metal box? But there was a time when directors believed that the technology of the future would smell like fear and blood. This is biopunk, the most uncomfortable genre in history, where instead of a hardware upgrade, you're offered an extra jaw. Imagine, you don't plug a flash drive into a computer, you feed your workstation raw meat because it's actually alive. Bone guns that fire human teeth and pulsating joysticks that literally fuse with your skin. This isn't just sci-fi, it's a visceral nightmare that feels more relevant today than any cyberpunk. In this episode of the Raw Archive, we aren't looking at shiny starships. We're going elbow deep into the stickiest, strangest sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, a place where tech sweats, moans, and demands your DNA to log in. Buckle up, or whatever you have instead of a seatbelt. We're finding out why flesh is the technology of the future we lost. Number 10. eXistenZ, the bio-gaming nightmare. In the late 90s, while the rest of the world was panicking over the Y2K bug and dreaming of the sleek, green-tinted digital world of the Matrix, David Cronenberg decided to go in the opposite direction. He gave us eXistenZ, a film that doesn't just ask, "Is this reality?" but asks, "Why is reality so clean?" The story follows Allegra Geller, a superstar game designer who survives an assassination attempt while demoing her new virtual reality game. But here, virtual reality isn't a headset or a haptic suit. It's a game pod, a pulsating organic kidney-shaped lump of genetically modified animal tissue. You don't turn it on, you massage it. You don't connect it via USB, you plug an umbilical cord into a bioport surgically installed in your lower spine. This is the ultimate evolution of the intimate relationship we have with our gadgets. Cronenberg suggests that for a game to truly be immersive, it has to be part of our biology. The pod reacts to your emotions. It gets sick, it gets tired. It's a pet, a tool, and the lover all wrapped into one wet, fleshy package. The highlight of the film's biotech aesthetic is the infamous gristle gun. In a world where metal detectors can find any conventional weapon, how do you commit an assassination? You build a gun out of charred bones and gristle from a mutated Chinese restaurant special. It doesn't use bullets, it fires human teeth. It's a perfect metaphor for the genre. The technology is us. It's made from the same stuff we are, which makes it impossible to truly separate ourselves from the tools we create. eXistenZ is a warning that once we let technology under our skin, the border between the user and the device disappears forever. Number 9. Videodrome 1983. Long live the new flesh. If eXistenZ is about gaming, Videodrome is about the raw, hypnotic power of the screen. This is Cronenberg's 1983 masterpiece that predicted our modern screen addiction, long before the first smartphone was even a sketch on a napkin. Max Rand is a sleazy cable TV president looking for the next big thing in sensationalism, and he finds it in a pirated broadcast called Videodrome, a plotless show of pure torture and violence. But Videodrome isn't just a show, it's a signal that causes a physical tumor in the viewer's brain, leading to hallucinations that rewrite reality. This is where the biopunk element hits its peak. Max doesn't just watch the TV breathes, it undulates, it reaches out for him. In one of the most iconic and disturbing scenes in cinema history, Max's own torso opens up into a vertical, wet slit, a literal VCR slot in his stomach. His body has become a playback device. He's programmed via tapes inserted into his own flesh. This is the horror of being consumed by media taken to its logical, physical extreme. The film blurs the lines between soft tissue and hardware until they're indistinguishable. Max's hand fuses with a handgun, wires and tubes growing into his wrist, turning his arm into a biomechanical weapon. Videodrome is a fever dream about the end of humanity as we know it. It posits that through our consumption of media and technology, we are evolving into something else, the new flesh. It's a world where the image is more real than the body, and the body must transform to survive in a world of signals. It's messy, it's loud, and it's deeply prophetic. Looking at our world today, where we feel a physical phantom limit when we lose our phones, Videodrome doesn't feel like a horror movie anymore. It feels like a documentary from a future that already arrived. Number 8. Tetsuo the Iron Man, 1989, Industrial Flesh Merge. If Biopunk has a fever dream, it's recorded on grainy, high-contrast 16mm black and white film in the industrial backstreets of Tokyo. Tetsuo the Iron Man isn't just a movie, it's an assault on the senses. It strips away the Hollywood polish and replaces it with a frantic, metallic heartbeat. The story is deceptively simple. A metal fetishist is hit by a car, and the man driving the car begins to undergo a horrific transformation. But this isn't a slow transition, it's a violent, agonizing takeover. The technology here isn't something you buy at a store, it's something that infects you like a virus. It starts with a small scrap of metal erupting from a cheek, and soon the protagonist is sprouting wires, rusted pipes, and rebar from his own skin. This is the ultimate low-tech biopunk. There are no clean labs or sleek interfaces, only rust, grease, and the sound of grinding gears. The body doesn't just adapt to the machine, it is consumed by it in a chaotic stop-motion nightmare. The sheer aggression of the visuals makes it perfect for a deep dive into the wet side of technology. In one of the film's most infamous scenes, a body part is replaced by a massive, rotating industrial drill. It's a metaphor for the loss of human intimacy in an increasingly mechanized world. Tetsuo shows us a future where we don't just use tools, we become them, losing our humanity to a cold, jagged heap of scrap metal. It's loud, it's dirty, and it perfectly captures the analog madness of a world where the boundary between flesh and iron has completely dissolved. Number 7. Naked Lunch, 1991, The Insect Politics of Tech. When you let David Cronenberg adapt a William S. Burroughs novel, you don't get a standard narrative. You get a hallucinatory trip into a world where biological life and mechanical function are indistinguishable. Naked Lunch is ostensibly about a writer, Bill Lee, who accidentally kills his wife and flees to Interzone, a surreal landscape where nothing is as it seems. But for the biopunk enthusiast, the real stars are the tools of his trade. In Interzone, a typewriter isn't just a machine made of keys and hammers, it's a living, breathing organism. The Clark Nova typewriter is a giant, oily beetle that speaks through a pulsing sphincter on its back. To write, Bill doesn't just hit keys, he interacts with a creature that has its own agenda, its own addictions, and its own voice. This is biopunk at its most surreal and psychological. It suggests that our creative tools are extensions of our own subconscious, monstrous, needy, and inherently biological. The film is filled with wet technology that demands a physical, often disgusting price for its use, from the mugwumps, alien creatures that secrete an addictive fluid from their heads, to the transformation of everyday objects into pulsating insectoid horrors. It's a world where the environment itself feels like it's made of organs rather than architecture. Naked Lunch challenges the viewer to look at the objects they use every day and imagine them as living things with their own biology. It's a masterclass in practical effects and creature design, proving that the most terrifying technology isn't the kind that computes, but the kind that crawls. Number 6. The Guyver 1991 Living Armor. While the mainstream was obsessed with superheroes and spandex, the cult underground was looking at the Guyver. Based on the Japanese manga, this 1991 film is a masterclass in wet, practical effects. The story follows a young man who stumbles upon a unit, an ancient extraterrestrial biological device. When activated, it doesn't just put a suit on him, it bonds with his nervous system in a violent, pulsating transformation. The Guyver armor isn't made of Kevlar or titanium. vibranium. It's an organism. When it deploys, you see muscle fibers weaving together, metal-like plates that look grown rather than forged, and sensory orbs that twitch like actual eyes. This is biopunk as a physical upgrade. The suit breathes with the wearer, heals its own wounds, and even has a mind of its own when the host is unconscious. For the archive vibe, this film is a goldmine. It represents the peak of 90s animatronics and foam latex suits. Every time the Guyver's sonic busters or mega smasher chest plates open, you're looking at dripping organic valves and glowing biological cores. It captures that specific era where the future looked like something that came out of a laboratory vat rather than a factory. It's the ultimate power fantasy where the price of admission is becoming a biological weapon. Number 5. Creepozoids, 1987, The Slime-Filled Lab. If you want to talk about the dirty side of the 80s, Creepozoids is your entry. This is peak exploitation biopunk directed by Linnea Quigley's frequent collaborator, David DeCoteau. Set in a post-apocalyptic 1998, a group of deserters takes shelter in a seemingly abandoned laboratory. They quickly realize that the experiments left behind didn't die. They evolved. This movie is obsessed with fluids. Everything in this world is covered in a layer of industrial grease or biological slime. The technology here is the result of a failed attempt to create a food source that doesn't require oxygen, which instead turned into a mutated nightmare. From giant aggressive rats to a terrifyingly deformed biobaby, the film showcases the horror of biology gone wrong. For the viewer, Creepozoids works because it feels claustrophobic and tactile. There's no clean surfaces. The computers are bulky, flickering, and surrounded by vats of bubbling neon liquid. It perfectly illustrates the biopunk trope of the laboratory as a womb, a place where machines are used to force evolve life into something monstrous. It's low budget, it's gritty, and it's a perfect example of the VHS-era obsession with the mutation of the human form. Number 4. Scanners, 1981, The Biological Weapon Inside. Before he was exploring game pods and VCR slots, David Cronenberg gave us the ultimate internal biopunk movie. In Scanners, the technology isn't something you hold or wear. It's a pharmaceutical accident living in the nervous system. The Scanners are a group of people with telepathic and telekinetic powers, the unintended side effect of an experimental sedative called ephemeral given to their mothers during pregnancy. This is biopunk at its most cerebral and violent. The film treats the human brain as a biological transmitter and receiver. When a scanner scans you, they aren't just reading your mind. They are taking control of your biological functions, your heart rate, your blood pressure, and, in the film's most legendary scene, the literal structural integrity of your skull. The climactic psychic duel is a masterpiece of practical organic horror. We see veins bulging, eyes rolling back, and skin rippling as if the nervous system is trying to escape the body. It posits a terrifying idea that the next stage of human evolution won't be a choice, but a mutation forced upon us by a corporation. The tech here is the blood and the brain, and it turns the human form into a ticking time bomb. Number 3. Inseminoid, 1981, The Cosmic Mutation. If you want a film that feels like it was pulled from the darkest, dustiest corner of a 1980s video store, Inseminoid, also known as Horror Planet, is it. This is a gritty, low-budget British production that takes the creature feature and injects it with the heavy dose of biological violation and planetary madness. A team of scientists exploring a subterranean alien tomb is picked off one by one, but the real horror begins when a female crew member is forcibly impregnated by an ancient alien machine. This isn't just a monster movie. It's a film about the terrifying efficiency of alien biology. The pregnancy is accelerated, driving the mother into a cannibalistic frenzy to sustain the twin hybrids growing inside her. Visually, Inseminoid is pure archive material. The sets are cold, metallic, and claustrophobic, contrasting with the messy primal reality of the biological takeover. The medical equipment is clunky and analog, failing to deal with the technology it doesn't understand, the alien genome. It captures that specific 80s fear of the alien other, not just as a monster with claws, but as a biological force that can rewrite our very DNA. It's raw, it's sweaty, and it remains one of the most unsettling examples of cosmic biopunk ever filmed. Number 2. Wedlock, 1991. The explosive biological lease. In the early 90s, sci-fi started moving away from giant space battles and focused on a more intimate, terrifying form of control, the body as a prison. Wedlock, also known as Deadlock, is a masterclass in high-concept, low-budget tension. It stars Rutger Hauer, the patron saint of cult sci-fi, as a diamond thief who is sent to a high-tech experimental prison. But this isn't a prison with bars and walls. It's a prison of proximity. The technology here is as simple as it is cruel. Every inmate is fitted with a Wedlock collar. These collars are electronically linked to another mystery inmate. If you move more than 100 yards away from your partner, both collars detonate, instantly decapitating both prisoners. The catch? You don't know who your partner is. This is biopunk in its most cynical administrative form. The tech isn't an alien mutation or a lab-grown monster. It's a piece of hardware that turns your very existence into a codependent nightmare. It treats human life as a simple radio signal. If the signal gets too weak, the biological component is deleted. For the raw archive, this film is a treasure trove of industrial, early 90s aesthetics. The prison itself is a sprawling, dusty complex where the Wedlock devices are bulky, heavy, and look like they were welded together in a basement. It captures that specific fear of the invisible cage, the idea that technology doesn't need to lock you in a room if it can just monitor your heartbeat and your location. The tension of the film comes from Hauer and his accidental partner trying to outrun a system that is literally fused to their mechs. It's a gritty, fast-paced look at a future where the state doesn't just own your freedom, it owns your jugular vein. Number 1. Hell Comes to Frogtown, 1988, the ultimate cult mutation. We're closing the archive with a film that perfectly captures the weird and non-mainstream vibe you're looking for. Hell Comes to Frogtown is the absolute peak of 80s exploitation sci-fi. It stars the legendary Rowdy Roddy Piper in a post-apocalyptic world where fertile humans are a dying breed, and the planet is ruled by giant, mutated frog people. Why is this number 1? Because it embodies the raw archive spirit. It's bizarre, it's practical, and it's unapologetically unpopulist. The technology here is a desperate low-tech mess. Piper's character, Sam Hell, is forced into a mission to rescue fertile women from Frogtown, and to ensure his cooperation, the government fits him with a chastity belt that is rigged to explode if he strays too far or shows too much initiative. It's a literal biological leech, a crude and hilarious example of technology used to control human reproduction. The film shines in its creature design. These aren't CGI monsters. These are massive, rubbery, dripping animatronic frog men. The Frogtown aesthetic is a masterpiece of 80s grit, industrial ruins, vats of mysterious slime, and a social hierarchy based on mutation. It's a world where biology has failed, and the survivors are just trying to piece it back together with rusted metal and sheer madness. It's the perfect hidden gem to end on, because it doesn't try to be high art. It's a loud, proud, and incredibly strange artifact of an era when cinema wasn't afraid to get its hands dirty. If you want to show your audience something they've truly never seen, this is the one. So, there you have it. 10 visions of a future that didn't come from a Silicon Valley keynote, but from the dark, sweaty corners of a fever dream. We've seen flesh become metal and metal become alive. We've seen guns made of teeth, computers that need to be fed, and a world where the most valuable piece of tech isn't the one in your pocket, but the DNA inside your cells. These films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s weren't just trying to gross us out, they were trying to warn us. They saw a world where we'd become so obsessed with our tools that we'd eventually let them under our skin. And looking around today, at our neural links, our biohacking, and our absolute physical dependency on the glowing rectangles in our hands, maybe they weren't so far off. Maybe the new flesh isn't coming. Maybe it's already here, just waiting for a software update. If you enjoyed this dive into the stickier side of the archive, you know what to do. Hit the buttons, feed the algorithm some engagement. It's the only way to keep this machine alive. Most of these gems are still hiding out there on YouTube or Tubi, waiting for someone to find them. Go watch them before the signal fades. I'm headed back into the vault to see what else I can dig up. Stay weird, stay human, and remember, keep an eye on your tech because it might be keeping an eye on you. This was the Raw Archive. End of transmission.